Are you saying you were just being a good person? That's it. That's the whole thing. You were just decent. You showed up, you helped, you didn't make it complicated. When they needed something you gave it, when they were struggling you stayed, when they pushed you pulled them back in because that's what you do. And somehow that became the problem. Not their behavior. Yours. Look, you already know something went wrong. You're here because the math stopped adding up. You kept giving and the return kept shrinking. And at some point you started feeling it, that low, quiet drain. The kind that doesn't announce itself. It just shows up one day and you realize you're exhausted and you can't explain why. You can explain why. They saw you coming, didn't they? Not in a dramatic way. Not a predator spotting prey. Quieter than that. They just recognized something in you. The way you listen, the way you follow through, the way you don't make people feel bad for needing things, the way you show up without being asked. All the things that make you a good person. All the things that made you useful. Let's be honest, that's the word that stings, isn't it? Useful. Because you weren't trying to be useful. You were trying to be kind. Those feel like the same thing from the inside. From the outside, I mean, from their side, they're completely different. Kind means you care. Useful means they don't have to. So here you are. Running through it. Trying to figure out where it turned. When kindness stopped feeling like a strength and started feeling like something that cost you. Let's just say, it cost you from the beginning. You just didn't have the full picture yet. Well, here's where it started. Not with something obvious, not with a moment you could point at and say, there. That's when it changed. It started with an ask. A reasonable one. The kind you'd fulfill for anyone because it genuinely wasn't a big deal. They needed something. You had it, and you gave it. Simple, clean, no weight to it at all. And do you remember what's happened? They were grateful, warm, even. And that felt good because that's what kindness is supposed to feel like. You give, they receive, everyone moves forward. That's the deal, right? Except the ask came again. Different shape, same dynamic. They needed, you provided. And again you didn't think twice because why would you? This is just who you are. You don't keep score, you don't build resentment over small things, you help because helping feels natural. And you know what? They noticed that. They noticed you didn't hesitate, didn't negotiate, didn't attach conditions. You just gave. Without making them feel small for asking. Without the subtle sigh or the reminder later. Clean generosity, no strings. And if you think about it, that told them everything. Because here's what was happening underneath. Every time you gave without hesitation, they were learning your default setting. Watching to see if the generosity had a limit. Checking whether you'd eventually pull back or add conditions or start keeping score. You didn't, did you? So the asks got slightly bigger. So gradual you didn't register the shift. One day it's a small favor, then it's your time, then it's your energy, then it's your emotional bandwidth at 11 at night when you have work in the morning and they just need to talk and you stay because that's who you are. Let's just say, that's who you've always been. You're the only one who actually gets it. That's not a compliment. That's a lock. That line kept you available, kept you feeling necessary, kept you coming back because somewhere in you it felt good to be the person someone relied on that completely. The funny thing is, they knew that too. And the reliance kept growing, didn't it? Quietly, steadily, until the dynamic had shifted so far that saying no felt like a personality change. Like a betrayal of yourself, like suddenly becoming someone you didn't recognize. So you didn't say no. You adjusted. Again, gave more, stayed later, explained less, asked for nothing. And they received it all without once questioning whether it was fair. Because at the end of the day, fair was never the point. You were. And then you started shrinking. Not all at once. Bit by bit. You stopped mentioning when something bothered you because it was easier than dealing with the reaction. You started working around them instead of with them, planning your words before you said them, checking the mood before you brought anything up. And as a matter of fact, you called it being considerate. It wasn't. It was management. You were managing them, their needs, their reactions, their comfort. And somewhere in that process your own needs stopped making the list. Do you remember why? You told yourself you didn't mind, that you're just not a needy person, that you're fine. You weren't fine. You were trained. Not dramatically, not on purpose, just gradually worn into a shape that worked better for them. You became easier to be around because you stopped pushing back. Stopped asking for things and stopped taking up space. And here's the thing, they never once asked you to do any of that. They didn't have to. You know why? Because every time you made yourself smaller they got more comfortable. And the more comfortable they got the more normal it felt. To both of you. That's the part that's hard to sit with, isn't it? You did it to yourself, with the best intentions in the world. Look, let's call it what it is. They didn't manipulate you in spite of your kindness, they manipulated you because of it. Your kindness was the door, and they didn't need to force it open because you left it unlocked. Every single time. And here's the part that's hard to hear. They weren't confused about what they were doing, they weren't oblivious. They knew you'd show up, they knew you'd stay, they knew that if they pushed too hard you'd find a way to understand them. To excuse it, to find the version of events that made them look less calculated and you look less foolish for staying. And to be fair, you did that for them. Every time. I just don't know what I'd do without you. That's not vulnerability, that's a leash. Set at exactly the right moment, when you were tired, when you were close to pulling back, when something in you was starting to question the dynamic. And it worked, didn't it? Because you're the kind of person who can't walk away from someone who needs them. And here's the thing, they knew that too. So the pattern locked in. You give, they take, you feel the imbalance, they sense you feeling it, they say something just warm enough to reset you, you stay. And the cycle starts again. Round and round. And every round the bar shifted slightly. What they asked for got bigger, what you received got smaller. But because it moved so slowly you kept adjusting your idea of normal, until normal looked nothing like what it did at the start. Think about it, if they had shown you on day one what the dynamic would look like a year in, you would have walked away immediately. No hesitation. But that's not how it works, is it? It works slowly, patiently, One small shift at a time until you're so far from where you started you can't even see it anymore. And the whole time your kindness kept the whole thing running. Because you kept giving them the benefit of the doubt, kept believing the good moments were the real them and the bad moments were the exception, kept telling yourself that people are complicated and relationships take work and nobody is perfect. Interestingly, all of that is true. None of that is what was happening here, because what was happening here was one-sided. You were doing the work, you were doing the forgiving, you were doing the adjusting, the staying, the trying. Let's face it, they were just receiving it. Without guilt, without effort, without once asking themselves what they were giving back. Because let me ask, why would they? You never made them, and they knew you never would. That's not a relationship, that's an arrangement. And only one of you agreed to it. Anyway, now you see it. Not as a string of bad days or miscommunications or two people who just couldn't get it right. You see it as what it was. A pattern built on the one thing you never thought could be used against you. And you see who you are. You see your kindness wasn't a flaw, and it isn't one now. But it was a door, and they walked through it every single time you held it open, without asking, without questioning, without once checking what it was costing you. If you think about it, it cost you a lot. Your time, your energy, your sense of what's normal in a relationship, your ability to identify your own needs because you spent so long making theirs the priority. That doesn't come back overnight, does it? But here's what's true right now. You see the mechanism, the ask that grew, the limit that kept moving, the warmth that arrived exactly when you were about to pull back, you see how it worked. All of it, clearly. And that clarity, that's yours. They can't take that back. Be honest, part of you already knew. Long before today, there was a moment, early on, where something felt slightly off. Where the giving felt slightly one-sided and where a small voice said, wait. Let's just say, you talked yourself out of it, and you don't have to do that anymore. You know what this was, you know what it cost you, and you know, right now, today, exactly what you're dealing with. And what you do with that is yours completely. If you decide to.